Hello, 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 hello. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just going to take a minute to wait for people to join. Hi, guys. It's nice to be on with you again in this first Wednesday in September. Hi. Who's with me already? Do me a favor. As you're joining, please remember to let StreamYard use your Facebook name so I can see who's joining with me this evening. All right. So if you don't let the app use your Facebook name, all you show up as is Facebook user. So then I can't say, hi so and so, how you doing? So hi Cynthia. See how that works? Cynthia let the app know her Facebook name, so therefore, yay! Hi Annie. Yo yo yo. Um, Yeah. So as you guys are joining, hi. Welcome, Soul Squad and everybody else. Let StreamYard use your Facebook name so I can see who's joining. Facebook user who is just like, hello. If you let the app use your Facebook name, I can say hello back. Hi, Dr. Zakia. Whoever loves me, I love you back. Mwah, 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 mwah. Hi, Paquita. Thank you guys for joining us. So I think you guys are my regulars. I cannot see your name, Paquita, Angelina. I cannot see your name. All of you guys are still showing up as Facebook users. Hi, Nathan. Facebook user said hi with the mwahs. Same to you. Good evening. So my regulars have the hang of this. They know how to let the app StreamYard use their Facebook name. Some of you also know how to get watch party started. So if you're joining from my personal page as well as the podcast page or from YouTube, go ahead and start some hi Onika, some Facebook watch parties. If you're on your phone, bottom of your phone, hit share. You can start a watch party from your personal page. All right, so we got folks from YouTube, we got folks from my personal page, we got folks from the podcast page, and of course my soul squad from the Soul Revival Circle. So thank you, welcome you guys. What you guys drinking tonight? So tonight, I have to go slow because this is actually in my cup tonight. This is one of my favorite wines from the Brown Estate. It is the only Black-owned winery in Napa. They also, if you have managed to fly Delta anywhere in the world before the pandemic, they entered into a partnership with Delta. So their wines are served on Delta, but is my favorite wine tonight. I'm drinking Chaos Theory. And I have some, I'm working on a Zoom wine tasting, so stay tuned for when that is with the Brown Estate and what you have to do to be invited to that Zoom to be part of that. So that's something that's coming up in the future that I'm super excited about. As I said, it's one of my favorite wineries in Napa. Speaking of the future, you guys, let me tell you about the season that I have lined up for you. I'm so excited. Like I'm like that parent who has bought all the Christmas gifts and is about to spill all the gifts before Christmas, right? So I have an incredible lineup planned for you this season. A lot of you have made requests, and based on those requests, I've planned some stuff. I'll be talking about sex. Having some great sex positive conversations with somebody in the industry, because I think that it's really important that women be sex positive and have positive things about their body. We've been working through sexual trauma. I have some really powerful empowerment speakers planned for you guys. The first of which is the 16th of September. She's a life coach who I didn't even realize that I spoke life into her a few years ago and told her you need to be life coaching, and come to find out, she actually went ahead and pursued that. And so I am so excited to have her on the 16th of September. I'll be announcing who that is shortly. On the 30th of September, I have a topic that's really, really close to my heart, cancer. And so one of you requested to talk about health trauma. And so I have two physicians who themselves are cancer surgeons who have survived and beaten cancer. Yay, yay. So that would be on the 30th of September. I have a purpose coach. We're going to be diving into all things purpose, purpose driven, passion driven, purpose, living in your purpose, dreaming in your purpose. I'm excited about that purpose conversation. And I have a financial coach to talk about financial trauma because, some of us have suffered financial trauma, and that's important to work through. So I'm excited to have a financial coach on board with us, and that'll be sometime in October. All right, you got your glasses ready. I am so excited for the season that I have planned for you guys. But before we get into tonight, before we get into why we are all here tonight, hi, Monica, all these Facebook users who haven't allowed the StreamYard to use your Facebook name. If you allow the app to use your name, I can say hi. I love saying hi to you guys. So please do me the honor. But before we get into talking about why we're gathered tonight, I just want to take a moment to honor the memory of Chadwick Boseman. Last Friday, I think we can all remember where we were when we heard the news that he had passed away. I know I remember exactly where I was. I was driving and I had to pull over because I didn't think that it was true. But 43-year-old Chadwick Boseman, transitioned from this earth, the man who gave us T'Challa in the Black Panther and Marshall in Marshall and Thurgood Marshall and, Jackie Robinson in 43. Wow. Passed away after a 4-year battle with colon cancer. And so when I heard about his death, I was driving. And I received the news via text and I didn't believe it. I thought it was a lie. They sent me a TMZ link and, I haven't quite gotten used to TMZ being, a reputable news source for breaking news. And so I didn't believe it. And, how many of us didn't believe it? And how many of us still can't wrap our minds around the fact that this great and creative soul has finally left the earth? And so, of course, I came across this quote of his in reviewing some of his material. And, it's actually a quote, an Irma Bombeck quote, but, it was so fitting for him because he said, "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left in me and could say, I used everything that you gave me." So it's so applicable in how he lived his life, right? The way we should all strive to live our lives and to use up every single bit of talent that we are given. Using up your talent to your last drop is rooted in purpose. Part of the reason why I, am here talking to you guys, the pursuit of purpose, living in purpose, discovering your purpose. And Chadwick had a lot to say about purpose, especially in his 2018 commencement speech, and I just had to listen to it again the other day, and it shook me and it resonated deep within my soul. And he said, I just want to give this to you guys tonight. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things that you are here to fulfill, whatever you choose. For your career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. And, reconnecting with this wisdom this weekend, was deeply soul stirring for me. And especially hearing it from the hero that brought us the Black Panther. He brought us so many heroes. And I needed the reminder of purpose for many, many reasons. And maybe so do you. Like in relation to what is going on in the country right now, what's going on in Wisconsin, the elections coming up, your activism. Maybe you just needed that reminder with regard to your purpose. So maybe your focus on purpose is more personal right now, as a parent, as a spouse, as a caregiver, as a healer, as a person still trying to find your purpose. Whatever purpose means to you right now, just remember that the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. So he made his exit right before the full moon. So we have the opportunity to release the bullshit and live in purpose. Well, amen. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for that. I just wanted to give you guys that tonight to remind you, in memory of Chadwick Boseman and everything, he left none of his talent with himself and he gave us his all, just expressing gratitude for that tonight. So with that said, let's dive into tonight's purpose, which is to talk about biodynamic breathing for trauma recovery. And a few hours ago, I was actually asked, well, how are you going to make breathing exciting? And I said, well, I actually think the power that we have over our bodies, like these great biofeedback machines that we occupy, that we've been gifted for the purpose of experiencing presence on this earth, is actually exciting in and of itself. And that's why I like to call biodynamic breathing bossing your breath. Like that power that we have over our breath and over our bodies, let's boss it. Let's boss our breath. So welcome to another Healing Conversation After Dark. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you poured yourself something good. Some of you said just ice water, a little chaos theory. From the Brown Estate, I'm Dr. Yemi. I'm your host. I'm the founder of the Soul Revival Project, your favorite dream queen. And I help successful women transform after trauma so that they can heal their hearts and live the life of their dreams. Remember to allow the app to use your legal name, your Facebook name, so that I can see you in the comments. So, biodynamic breathing, what is it? Why should we practice it? And how can it help us recover after trauma? So before we get into it, does anybody know what biodynamic breathing is? Do you guys know? I like to interact with the audience. I really do. And when I'm speaking to audiences, oftentimes I'll request to have the house lights up a little bit, so that I can see beyond the first row, because I like to interact with the audience. I like to call on folks, so on and so forth. So you could always see people get nervous too whenever they don't have the lights up quite so high in order for me to sit. I'll be like, can you turn the lights up? And the people like, whoop, and they freeze. They're like, Sheila about to call on us. But yeah, so you guys, and so nobody has any idea of what biodynamic breathing is, and that's fine. That's okay. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. So in terms of, I need to, what I didn't do? I didn't take off my watch. So I'm still getting all these notifications, and you guys are certainly lovely. I appreciate you guys texting me during the broadcast, but seriously, just write your comments in the comments section. It's all good. We'll get to it. But nobody knows what biodynamic breathing is. Does anybody have an idea what they think it is? Nobody has an idea what they think biodynamic breathing is. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, biodynamic breathing is simply biodynamic breath work. And it's combined with another system that we like to call trauma release system. And so this modality actually integrates 6 elements to release tension, to support natural healing, and sort of restore our internal systems, because those are the things, what's the very first thing when we experience trauma that goes? Our breath. Trauma has that, that powerful of a capacity to simply literally just take our breath away. So biodynamic breathing is a trauma release system to restore our internal systems, to promote healing within ourselves, and also to release tension. So the categories of biodynamic breath work involve, of course, the most important element, breath. It also involves movement, and we have sound. It involves touch. It involves emotion release and meditation. So those of you guys who joined last week, if you remember, we talked about, happiness, the investment in our happiness. And one of the 7 elements or 7 steps in increasing happiness had to do with meditation. And so if you've ever been through a guided meditation, I think raise your hand, comment actually, if you have never been through a guided meditation. Has anybody not been through a guided meditation before? But if you've never been through a guided meditation, you will notice how the practitioner immediately starts with breath, right? The practitioner will get you to take several deep cleansing breaths in order to bring you into the present moment, to help you return to center. And then somebody commented that they have not participate in a guided meditation. So this part is really for you, definitely. But as you bring yourself back to center through breath, the practitioner will then begin to integrate the other senses. So he'll then give you he or she will then give you a visualization, correct? Could be walking through a forest or simply walking along the beach. And then they'll incorporate the sense of sound or hearing, if you will, and, allow you to hear the waves going in and out, maybe even allow you to sync your breathing to the sound of the waves. They may, want you to imagine yourself smelling the sea salt in the air, and as well as connecting to the earth and reminding yourself through touch, maybe what the feel of the sand feels like in your toes. And so there are all of these integrated pieces of guided meditation involving breath work, involving touch, sound, smell. And then as you go through the meditation, you'll notice that then the practitioner will want you to connect everything that you are experiencing in that meditation with how it feels, with the emotional release. So that's the emotional tension, if you will, that then, or the emotional awareness that you bring to the meditative practice. And in noticing how you are in that relaxed state, in that meditation, the whole purpose of that not only is to bring presence and awareness to that current moment, but also to help you, get to that state when you are out of center, when you are out of breath, right? To be able to quickly identify the feelings associated with calmness, with centeredness, and to be able to bring yourself back into that center, that state of calm when you encounter those emotional states that take you out of center, such as trauma. All right. So the approach of biodynamic breathing recognizes that trauma is stored in both a physiological sense, a physical sense, like we literally store trauma in our bodies. What do we look like when we're in a trauma response? Our shoulders are hunched, they're up by our ears. We're breathing fast. Trauma definitely in our physical beings has a definite look. And it's also stored in a psychological sense. So trauma is stored through emotional patterns, through chronic stress. Also, we experience trauma as blocked energy. So biodynamic breath work, or bossing your breath, aims to restore balance to all of these systems. I think that it is important to first define trauma. What do we mean when we're talking about trauma? Like, let's all understand what we mean by trauma. So trauma is simply an emotional response to a terrible event, like an accident, like rape, like a natural disaster, like war. But trauma is an emotional response. And that emotional response is stored in what's the area of the brain called the amygdala. We'll talk about the amygdala later, but it's an emotional response. And any person can experience trauma as a response to any event that they find physically or emotionally threatening or harmful. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, something natural disaster or, rape or something like that. You can experience trauma as a result of experiencing racism, as a result of experiencing microaggressions, as a result of experiencing sexism and homophobia. So any response, any emotional response that you personally perceive as, experienced as physically threatening or harmful, that is a trauma response. And as you know, as you have experienced trauma, a trauma, traumatized person can, feel a range of emotions both immediately after the event and long term. And so a traumatized person may feel overwhelmed, they may feel helpless, they may feel shock, they may have difficulty processing their experiences. And, trauma can also be experienced, in the physical, like I talked about, heart racing, anxiety, difficulty breathing, feeling that chest tightness, feeling like the person is having a heart attack. And it can also then, if somebody is repeatedly exposed to trauma, well, of course, that can have long-term effects on their person's well-being, and if they don't decrease the severity of the trauma stimulus, if you will, then of course that can lead to like long-term mental illnesses and, post-traumatic stress disorder. And so it's important to, if you realize that you're in that, I definitely have to take a pause and encourage you to seek, professional help, because mental illness is something that we definitely do not talk a lot about, particularly in communities of color. So we need to normalize, as practitioners of color, as people of color, especially, getting help for mental illness, seeking therapy, seeking psychotherapy, medications, all of it. It is all normal. We all need help at some point or another. I, on this podcast, often talk about the help that I received, from my therapist at different points in my life. So, there are several kinds of trauma as well. There's acute trauma. So acute trauma it results from a single stressful or dangerous event. So some of you know, some of you don't know. I as a young and not so smart or naive 20-year-old, traveled to Morocco and ended up getting kidnapped in Morocco. So that is one of the acute traumas that I experienced as a 20-year-old. I was in the hotel lobby and ended up getting convinced by a man dressed as a tour guide that he was in fact a legit tour guide. This was in Fez, Morocco. And so wasn't thinking, didn't let my mom know, didn't let anybody know where I was going. I left the hotel with him with no cell phone, no way to communicate, nothing. And very soon found myself in a situation whereby I was held against my will. And the details of that certainly will come out. Like I would say, though, that's for the book. That's for the book. But that, was a singular traumatic event for me. There's also chronic trauma, which is the result from repeated prolonged exposure to highly stressful events. And so examples of that include, what kids are going through these days with bullying, online bullying, there's child abuse or domestic violence. Those are chronic stressors. And then we also have complex trauma, where this results from the exposure to multiple traumatic events. So whether your trauma is acute, whether it's chronic, whether it's complex, it's important to recognize that trauma is, like I said, stored in both the physical or the physiological, as well as the psychological ways. And so, like that energy of trauma being, stored in our bodies. I mentioned the amygdala earlier. Trauma is stored in the amygdala, and what the amygdala does is it stores visual images of the trauma as sensory fragments. So we don't remember our traumas as like in story form. We don't remember our traumas in story format. But, the amygdala sort of chops up trauma, if you will, into, how our five senses experience trauma, as we were going through it. So then these, memory fragments become visual images, they become smells, they become, taste, sounds, touch. So for example, I was in New York recently and I was riding on a bike. We were in Tribeca and a smell came over me. And immediately I was back in Morocco. I didn't understand why, but the smell came over me from one of the nearby restaurants. And it reminded me of the moment that I realized that I was being kidnapped and I was trapped. because it reminded me of a smell from a street vendor that was preparing, some kind of street food. And so the minute that I smelled it, like I was incapable of movement. I couldn't steer the bike. I couldn't pedal. I couldn't, steer anything. There was nothing I could do in that moment. I couldn't yell. And it was the most surreal experience until, I just thought to myself, okay, I just have to breathe. And so when I was then able to breathe, I recognized, okay, that this is what it was that I was remembering. And then I could feel those physical effects of fear, of anxiety rushing through my body at that point, and then really reliving that traumatic experience. And so that was my amygdala just literally lighting itself up. And so it makes sense that we need approaches and tools available to us using methods that integrate all of the things that the amygdala in our brain employs, smell, touch, feeling, hearing, all of the sounds associated with those traumas, incorporated with breath work in order to restore the balance to that system that gets out of balance when our amygdala lights up in a trauma response. So the therapy focuses actually on self-transformation. It is like not knowledge-based. It's not, anybody can do this. It's not knowledge-based on academics. For some of the deeper traumas, of course, you want to go through with a licensed professional, but, really biodynamic breath work is not knowledge based on academics. It's about creating space and relaxation in your physical body so that you can recover from your traumas. So we've been doing this for centuries, right? We have sought spiritual awakening, we sought self-healing, meditative relaxation through different breathing techniques. So this is rooted in lots of Eastern practice, right? Like Tai Chi and Buddhism and yoga, however, like a lot of the breathwork therapy that's used today, it actually started in the 1960s and 70s, with that consciousness raising area. So what are the elements of biodynamic breathing? If we're talking about 6 elements of integration, what are those 6 elements? Like, how do we use them? How do we access them to recover ourselves from trauma? So the first of those is breathing. And, we're not talking about just any breathing, right? We're talking about deep, connected breathing with conscious touch, with movement, with emotional release and meditation, that we really, focus ourselves on the recovery, on the bringing ourselves into that element of healing, and moving past the, sort of integrating the trauma, if you will, so that we can move past it. So breath, right, has the ability to both calm as well as charge. So if you just take, 3 deep breaths, just 3 deep breaths in calmness, just even with that first breath, you can even just feel tension leaving your body and, sort of activating specific activities associated with relaxation. You'll feel your heart rate come down. You'll feel your body relax, and so, like I said, has both the power to relax as well as charge. Well, how does breath work charge? If you have ever practiced yoga, and you've practiced it's called lion's pose or simhasana, it's one of the craziest poses you'll do. Either, sometimes you do it like in a back bend, or sometimes you can do it leaning forward. But literally, it is the taking a deep breath in through your nose, and then you simultaneously open your mouth as wide as you can and stretch your tongue out and curl that tongue all the way down to your chin, and you open your eyes wide, and it's literally like contracting the muscles in the front of your throat, and you exhale breath slowly out through your mouth with a distinct ha. I know you'd love to see me do it, but literally it's breathe in, open your mouth, literally, and it's associated with sound. And as you release that tension, you're actually stimulating your throat chakra, and on the emotional side of it, it's a silly pose, right? So you're boosting your self-confidence and teaching yourself to let go. So that is how Breath also has the power to charge as well as relax. Okay. So, we have somebody who said a Malampati zero on there. Yes. Lion's pose, literally. I just did lion's pose for all of you guys to see all the way in the back. Literally, I could intubate myself. But so, yes, breath, the power of breath to both calm and to charge. Both elements are important, in terms of boxing your breath, biodynamic breathing. And so, what do we mean when we talk about incorporating movement into biodynamic breathing? So, we're talking about creating somatic and like creative movement exercises. Have you ever seen an athlete, like a track star, right before the big race, right? Right before the big race, you'll see them, and they're literally shaking themselves out, and they're tapping, they're tapping themselves, literally creating those somatic and creative muscle movements to get all those jitters out so that they are ready to get in formation and perform at peak performance. So that is actually one of the elements of, a lot of times in meditation, we focus on stillness, right? Biodynamic breathing, we're looking at movement. We're looking at those movements that are associated with release, like playful warm-ups. This is the time to not be worried about who's watching your movement, whole body shaking, undulations, and movement is key to what makes sort of all of that biodynamic breathing, as you're literally opening up your chest, opening up your heart center. Of course, you're able to take deeper, more connected breaths. Simhasana is available to you, as well as other deep breathing practices. And then a lot of times we don't necessarily think about sound as being part of biodynamic breathing. Now with Simhasana, I just said there's sound associated with it, or you can associated with it. So sound awakens, like tells our nervous system that, okay, there is something that is supposed to go on here. A lot of times meditative music is associated, with certain bells, certain energy frequencies, to really activate the nervous systems. And it's one of the most powerful ways to actually activate our nervous systems. And it's a supportive tool, if you will, to biodynamic breathing. Now, speaking of sound, like I said, I'm that parent on Christmas who has like some really exciting announcements. So I have a project that I'm working on that I can't wait to deliver to you guys, using various frequencies and sounds, and incorporating that as far as nervous system activation. So I can't wait to announce what that is, but it is an extremely powerful and supportive tool for conscious, like vocalization, bringing into your consciousness certain things that you want to work out as a part of your biodynamic breathing practice. And then also we talk about like the emotional release, really connecting all of those things, our movement, the sound, the breathing that we're doing to the emotion in our body, the things that are coming up as a result of, working out our trauma, as well as, how it is that those things that we're doing, how we're moving, how we're breathing, the things that we're touching, and the things that we're hearing are then helping to bring that calming presence to move us past, our trauma. So being able to feel those deeper feelings and sensations and return to a sense of calm and comfort using breath and movement, touch and sound. So like a lot of times, people are like, well, what if I don't really have a lot of trauma to work out? So biodynamic breathing still works, because what is biodynamic breathing really about? It's about transcending the mind through open heart. So really you want to reach those profound layers of your memory cells to boost your emotional intelligence. So like, therefore you're reawakening your true nature. And so like, this is a powerful modality. Really, it is a powerful modality to increase your self-awareness, to increase your self-acceptance, to increase your self-confidence, And so that transcendence that you're able to experience by boosting all of those things about your self-awareness, your self-confidence, your self-acceptance, it gives you access to the higher universal consciousness that is within you. So like by doing that, by transcending, you can allow your individual expression of your full human divine potential. And so, I think that was one of the things that Chadwick Boseman left us with by leaving all of his talent, keeping none of it for himself, by using all of it and really having none left at the end of his life. Really reached his full human divine potential. And so really breath work, biodynamic breath work, bossing your breath work is really about unlocking the true potential that is you. All right. So, hi. Some of you joined us late. I hope that you were able to go ahead and catch the repeat, but who has questions? Biodynamic breathing isn't something that, maybe was talked about in, a lot of your circles that you're familiar with. So anybody have any questions about biodynamic breathing, specific elements of biodynamic breathing, specific elements of, trauma, some questions that you may want the rest of us to answer. It's interesting because sometimes you guys don't ask questions in the feed, but some of you are texting me right now. And then some of you will text me afterwards. So the conversation definitely continues. Really, I just wanted to give you, biodynamic breathing so that you can, go ahead and seek additional resources for yourself. And posting a resource. I will go ahead and post some resources at the end of the broadcast later tonight so that you can access those. So you'll be able to see those later tonight. So you would love to read more about the modality. For sure, definitely. I will give you, I'll give you as many resources as I can manage later tonight. I have some great resources for you. So, if you have no questions about biodynamic breathing, somebody suggested I should just open it up to general questions. Oh, it's like a free for all. So, anybody have any general questions? Carolyn, no worries. All right, go ahead. Definitely, you guys definitely need to catch this on the repeat, for sure. And if none of you have any questions, definitely go ahead and you want to catch the repeat, not only for the content, but there's some things that I'm excited about as far as this season is concerned and these episodes, some content that I'll be bringing to you guys, some events, a little wine tasting with my favorite winery in Napa later on in the season. So you'll want information. You got to stay tuned to this channel in order to get the invite. Yeah. So go ahead and catch the rewind. I'm Dr. Yemi, founder of the Soul Revival, where I have made it my mission to inspire women to have the courage to say yes to themselves and to pursue their highest potential. And please, 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 please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Those of you who are women want to join us on the Soul Revival Circle, please do so on Facebook, and then be sure to tune in next week for another Healing Conversation After Dark.